Hello everyone, good morning and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today's topic is going to be Salesforce automation tools. Please allow us a couple of minutes to see if anyone else is going to join to today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining and we'll begin shortly. Alright, so let's begin with today's topic. Let's go first with the introduction. So we're gonna discuss today's Salesforce automation tools. These are tools that are coming with your Remedyforce. Every single Remedyforce comes with a suite of automation tools that this belongs actually to Salesforce. So we're going to discuss them. Initially, we have three main automation tools. These are workflows, process builders, and flows. At this point, you probably are already very familiar with them. You probably are doing some stuff like sending notification through workflows, or either updating a record from a process builder, but you probably are not much aware of what flows are. So we're gonna see what are the difference between both, what are the capabilities of each one of them, and we're gonna see a couple of demonstrations of how to create a workflow, a process builder, and we're gonna see an introduction and a sample of a flow. By the way, today it's Gabriela, the latest member of the Remedyforce team. She's going to be with us on the chat, so any questions you may have during this webinar session, please drop them in the chat. Also, just as a friendly reminder, please modify your resolution of your browser of the YouTube video to at least 720p, so all the stuff we're going to see is totally visible for you. All right, so let's begin with the automation tools features. So these are the three main automation tools, and everyone has each one of them has a total different visual interface and capabilities. So in terms of visual interface, workflows are pretty simple. They just have a couple of slides and wizards to go from step 1 to step 3 and create a workflow. But flows and process builders, on the other hand, and you will see it later, they have a totally enhanced UI and a very good visual interface, so you can create an automation system very, very simple. Uh, it, you can start either workflows, process builders, or flows when a record is created or edited. This means that either when you create a record, an incident, or service request, a task, a problem, or any other custom object you may have, you can trigger a workflow, a process builder, or a flow, which is a very, very advanced automation tool, can be triggered either by another process or by an Apex class or by clicking a button or a link. Something that I forgot to mention, its process builders also can be called by another process. So you can have two process builders, and once that finish process builder number one, process builder one can call another process builder. On the other hand, workflows are very simple automation tools, and this can only be called when a record is created or edited. They cannot be called by another process or by a button or link on any Apex class. So the three of them supports tame-based actions. So what does it mean? It means that at the moment you trigger the workflow, process builder, or flow, you can execute an action after X time. I think the minimum time required it's an hour, but we'll see in a bit. So imagine you would like to change a status of an incident after 1 hour of its creation time. So that can be done from a workflow, which is um, you don't need anything else. You don't need a process builder for that because the workflow is totally capable of that. So that's the time-based actions. You're probably already familiar with them. Okay, so the next feature is creation of records. The workflow, it's not able to create any custom record, only Salesforce tasks. And these Salesforce tasks are not the BMC Remedyforce tasks that you see on the Remedyforce console. Salesforce has its own task object. So these workflows are only able to create tasks from Salesforce. On the other hand, we have process builders and flows that can create any type of object. So you can create any object from Remedyforce or any standard object from Salesforce. That means you can create an incident, a change request, a Remedyforce task, um, any kind of object. Okay, the next one is invoke a flow. Process builders can trigger a flow. So the same way they can trigger another process, they can trigger a flow. So we can pass info to that flow, and that flow is going to execute after the process builder ends. I'm sorry. The next one is deletion of records. The only automation tool that provides this feature it's the flows. Either workflows or process builders are not able to delete records. They can create them, speaking about process builders, but they cannot delete them. Send emails. Send email notifications is a very simple feature that you probably have seen it because you get notifications every single time a ticket is created or when people submit a service request through self-service and stuff. So send an email, it's a very basic feature that it's within the three tools. The only difference is that flows, it's capable of sending emails directly to outside email addresses without using an email alert. On the other hand, process builders and workflows require to send the email through the email alert system. The next one is send output messages. This is a very tricky one. An output message is a message that's going to be sent to an external system. This is meant to be used when you would like to create some sort of integration. I have seen a couple examples when customers would like to send an output message from Remedyforce to, example, an SAP instance or a Windows Server or another third-party service that can receive this message. The output message is a very, very simple message. It's in a string that you send, and the interpretation goes to the receiver. Example, you can send an output message when a severity 1 or a critical issue has been submitted to an external system that can trigger, I don't know, another notification, another service. So that depends on the configuration you want to make. For some reason, Salesforce decided to keep this feature only for workflows. We haven't used it that often on Remedyforce customers, but the option is there if you want to use it. The next one, it's probably the main purpose of the automation tools. It's the update fields. The capability of update fields is different across all of the automation tools. Example, workflows are only capable of update the record who trigger the workflow, but also its parent. But he's not able to update any related records besides the parent or any child records. So the workflow it's going to let you update only the record who triggered the workflow and the parent. On the other hand, the process builder can edit any related record and also the record who triggered the process builder. Example. Imagine if you want to create a process builder that updates a task when the task is created. So the process builder, I'm sorry, my headset had a small trouble here. So the process builder can edit any related record. And I was saying that imagine you would like to edit or update a task when the task is created, uh, but also you want to edit its related incident. Probably you would just want to update the description field, or you want to change the category, or change the staff assigned to it. The process builder, then it's the tool to go. Um, on the other hand, flows are really an enhanced process builder. So the difference between the flows and the process builder is huge on this feature, because the flows can access any record on the database when the flow is triggered, regardless of if the record who triggered the flow has no related records. So example, um, on the process builder, if you want to update a record, you just will be able to update the record who triggered the process builder and their related records. But on the flows, when you trigger a flow, you can update any record on the system as long as you have the reference, like the ID or the incident number, or but most of the times we need the ID. But that's a big difference between flows and process builders. The flows can query directly the database and get the actual record, regardless if this record triggered the process builder or the flow, I mean, or not. Okay, so we're gonna see a couple of examples here. So initially, we will begin with something real simple. We're gonna create a workflow to send an email alert when an incident from an email is created. And also, second part will be a process builder to automatically change the urgency and priority when an incident is created with category equals hardware. Okay, and last but not least, we're gonna see example of how a flow looks like, and we're gonna see how the flow UI is, and how can you start doing some playing with the flows. We're not doing any demo with the flows today because that will take us a lot of time. But just let me know in the chat, or let me know on the comments, or on BMC communities if you would like to see a webinar only for flows on this advanced automation tool. So hold on for a minute. Let me switch to my Remedyforce, and we will begin with the first demo here. Okay, so open your Remedyforce if you want to follow the process, or if you're already familiar with it, you can just watch it. Just as a friendly reminder, this webinar is going to be recorded as well and will be stored at the Remedyforce YouTube channel, so you can rewind anytime you want the video. So let's begin with the first one. We would like to create a workflow uh, to send an email notification when we get an incident that is being created from email, not from the console, not from the self-service. All right. So we're gonna use our schema builder first because we wanna see how the incident is related and all the fields on the incident. If you're not familiar with the schema builder, it's a canvas where you're gonna see all the objects on your Salesforce instance, including Remedyforce objects. Okay, so you can choose from the box in here the objects you would like to see. In this case, I already have the incident box here. If you check it, it's gonna disappear, but if you check it, it's gonna return back. Let's zoom in a little bit just in the incident so you'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, so as you can see here, from here we can see all the fields that are part of the incident object. The ones with the blue arrow, that means these are a managed field. So it means that these are coming out of the box with the incident. The ones that doesn't have any arrow at the beginning, it means that it was created by me, like a custom field. Okay, so from here, I want you to notice something, that we have a field that it's called source. We're gonna look for the source field in here. I don't see it, so probably it is incident source. So let's take a look. There it is. So incident source, it's a pick list. So why do I like this view? It's because it allows me to check really quick what type of field I'm dealing with, but also if I need to check any information further, I can just right click, view field in a new window, and that will take me directly to the actual field within the incident object. So I don't have to go and look for the field on custom objects and manage fields and stuff. Okay, so this is a pick list. So what it means, it has some values in it, and we're gonna look for a value that tells us that an incident was created by email. So if we see, we have a lot of options here: chat, chatter, email message, email other, event, mail listen, my IT, a bunch of stuff in here. What we do, it's when the incident is created, depending on the source, we mark this pick list. Example, if you create something from the self-service, every single incident it's going to have, this pick list selected as self-service. Okay. It doesn't matter if this field it's not visible to you from the console or from the incident layout on the standard incident tab. It always have data. Okay, so it doesn't matter if your staff is not able to see this, this is going to be at the back end. Alright, so the pick list that we are going to use is this one, mail listen. So let me copy this and I'm gonna save it on a notepad because I'm gonna need it later. And that mail listen, it's the option that it's selected when the incident is created from email. So this is very useful because if you would like to filter either on reports or any other tool, you can use this field to filter the incidents that were created by email messages, mail listen, which means that were created from the email services that we have on Salesforce and Remedyforce, from the self-service, or from if you're using creating from Chatter, also you can filter by the ones you have created from Chatter, and so and so. Okay, so let's go back to our schema builder. So that's all we need at the moment. So we're gonna keep this ones open, and gonna back to the home page here. I'm sorry, I just missed a huge step in here. We gotta go to your setup menu because this is where we're gonna jump from all the places we need to start to create a workflow. So from the quick find on the setup, let's type workflows, if I can type it correctly. And if you see, there's a huge bunch of stuff in here. So there's outbound messages, field updates, email alerts, process builders, flows, approval process. So the one we need is workflows. So I'm gonna open on a new tab. And same thing that happens with the fields that have this blue arrow. This means that these workflows are coming on the out of the box package. And the ones that doesn't have this blue arrow, it means that were created either by me or anyone else, any other administrator. Okay, So I'm gonna create a new rule. And the first step of the 3 wizard steps on the workflow is to select the object. Remember that this is very critical because if you select another object, you will not be able to update any related object because this is a workflow. So the object you select here, it's going to be the object you are going to update or modify, and most important is going to be the object who is going to trigger the actual workflow. So step number 2, choose the rule name. So it's going to be notify when incident is created by email. You can choose a description. This description is only for administrators, so this way you can save a note of what is the meaning of this workflow. And for this purpose, I'm just going to leave it empty. It's not a required field. And the evaluation criteria. This is very, very important. We have 3 options here. So create it. So that means that the workflow is going to evaluate only new records, not all records or not records that are being edited on the system. Second option is created and every time it's edited. And finally, created and anytime it's edited to subsequently meet criteria. What does it mean? It's a rule is going to be evaluated, and if you made a change that it's going to meet the criteria later for this workflow to run, then this is the criteria you would like to choose. Okay? So imagine if you have probably 1 or 2 workflows running at the same time. If you're not very sure which one is going to run first or second, because there's no way to tell exactly. Um, but if you want to run this workflow, because probably the change that you're looking at, it's going to be done by another workflow or a process builder or another process, right? So the criteria you would like to go in that option, it's this one, it's the third one. But in this case, since we're looking only for when the incident is created by email, so then I don't care or I don't want this workflow to run every time it's edited because it's gonna meet the criteria every single time. But only meets criteria once when the record is created. So for this purpose, I'm gonna choose created. And finally, the last step is to choose to run the workflow when the criteria is met. So what is the criteria? So you got 2 options here. Either you select from the pick list of fields. So example, let's see we have our incident source. Incident source, okay? And if we notice, there's a small lookup here. So that will allow us to select the value from the pick list. But also there's another option here if you would like to do it in an advanced way. You can actually create a formula the same way we create formulas for validation rules. Okay? Uh, it doesn't matter if you do it one way or the other. It's just choose whatever you feel familiar with or comfortable with. So I'm gonna choose this one because this is a very simple workflow. Um, oh, I just forgot to mention. On the other hand, when you go for this option, the formula evaluates to true. You have a lot of other functions here. So you can check if a value is blank. You can verify a datetime field or get a datetime value, or you can create small logic sequences by using ifs. At the end, the criteria just would like to know if you're going to return a true or a false. That's what it cares. So it doesn't matter what you choose. It's depending on your needs. In this case, I don't need to be creating an advanced formula because I'm just going to check a couple of fields. The first one is the incident source that we already saw, and the other one is I want to just segregate when this workflow is going to run. I don't want to be running for service requests. It is less probable that you get a service request created by email, but there is a chance you will get, right? So I want to use a small flag we have here that says is service request. And this is a checkbox, so I'm gonna pick the false value because I want this only to run when this is an incident, not a service request. So if you remember, both incidents and service requests share the same object. Okay, so let's go into the next one. And this is the last step of the process, but it's where the magic happens. From here, we're going to choose what happens after the criteria is met. Okay, so the workflow, what it is, the workflow, it's only a criteria that we're looking that a record is meeting. Okay, but at this point, the workflow is not going to do anything because it doesn't have an action attached to it. So we got to attach an action. So we have two options. We can create a time-dependent action like the one we were discussing on the presentation, that I can run this action based on a trigger, on a time trigger, and I can tell the workflow to run after X number of hours, or I can do an immediate action. For this purpose, I would like just to send immediately the email alert. So from here, as you can see, these are the only actions you can do with a workflow. As we were discussing, fill updates, email alerts, outbound messages, and create task. If you already have the email alert created, you can go for this option and select it directly. If you don't have the email alert, just click on new email alert, and let's choose a name. So it's gonna be incident created by email. Okay. What is an email alert? An email alert, it's the configuration for the email we're going to send. Okay, so it stores all the configuration, like what is the template I want to use, who's going to be my recipients, do I need to send these alert to any additional emails, stuff like that. So from here, first step is going to choose a template. If you want to use an existing template, you can use it. If you want to clone one of our templates and just remove what is necessary to you, you can do it as well. I'm not going to mess very much with the email alert with the templates here because that can take us a lot of time. So I'm going to choose just a simple one from the incident category. So I'm going to look for incident in here, and I'm going to choose incident email template version 2. Then it's going to tell me, okay, who's going to receive this email? And either you can select an static user, like I would like to Jim to get this message every single time an email is created. Probably Jim is going to manage all the cases or incidents that were created by email. So it doesn't matter who is the client, or who, Jim is going to take it, so I will go for it and just select him as the recipient, right? But on the other hand, if you are assigning these emails to a queue, and this queue has multiple staffs on it, so anyone can take them, or you just would like to use a dynamic um, email alert, so the options to go for is a related user and related contact. So we're gonna use related user. Related user, it's gonna take one of the values from the incident that has triggered this, and you can send the email to them. Example, if we look for client ID, client manager, close by, last modified by, and staff, those are user objects on our incident object. Just a quick sample, if I go to staff here, you see this is a lookup to a user object. And same happens to client ID, client manager, close by, and last modified by. Those are lookups for user objects. So I can send the email to any of them or to multiple of them. This case, I just want to alert the staff who is assigned to it. And additionally, I'm gonna put my own email address here so I can receive this as well. If I can find the ad, there it is. And last but not least, the from email address. So you probably may have on your organization multiple from email address that can be support at mycompany.com or reply at mycompany.com, stuff like that. Uh, I have a couple of them, but these are dummy ones. So if I reply to any of these alerts, nothing is going to happen because this email addresses doesn't exist. But on your specific scenario, make sure you select the right from email address. And there's another checkbox here. Be careful with this one because this one can modify uh, the from email address for this email alert. So just choose your own email address in here. Leave this checkbox on check. And finally, let's go ahead and click save. All right, so we have our criteria. Incident source equals may listen, and incident is service request equals false. So let's go ahead and click done. Out of the box, when you create a new workflow rule, all the workflow rules you have created are coming inactive. So after you do all the process of creating them and assigning the immediate actions, you need to activate it. Once it's active, every single email that every single incident that's created by email is going to trigger this one. And let's see if we can do a quick test. So let me go to my email services. And let me grab from my email conversation my long email address. I'm picking this one because I haven't sent any forward rule to this email service address. So that's why. Okay, so I'm just going to send this one. And I'll let you know if I get the email message. In the meantime, let's go to the console and see if we get the incident created. Okay, so I got 2 notifications because there was already one workflow that was running when every single incident is created, and the other one is the one that we just created. So on this case, make sure you don't have already one workflow that it's running, right? So example on this one, as every single Remedyforce, it comes with a notification when a incident is created, regardless of it's created by email, by self-service and stuff, right? That's why we got 2 notifications. So as you see, the workflow is working. What other things can do the workflow? It's if you go back to the workflow rule, you can actually modify the actions that it's performing with the same criteria. So you don't have to rewrite an entire workflow if you would like to add or modify the actions. You can also clone the workflow and just modify the actions that it's executing. You probably would like to use the same criteria for a different thing, right? So I'm gonna deactivate this one, and you can edit the workflow's actions, and you can add an additional action, probably like a field update, and you move forward from here. You can just update the record, modify the description field, modify any other field. Remember that the workflows can edit fields of the actual record and the parent. So we have 20 minutes left. Let's see if we can create a sample of a process builder and check a sample of a flow with a process builder. So let's go back to our setup menu and type process and go to the workflows and approval sections, open process builder. Let me just remove this thing. So this is the UI for the process builders. As you can see, I already have a couple of process builders in there. And from the table here, this is the table of process. You see the description if you set a description. Then you see the object that it's running. So example, this is running with the base element, which is the CMDB object. This is running with the incident. This is running with a broadcast, a case, another incident, and a bunch of tasks in here. Then you see if the process type is a record change, is when a record is changing. The last modified date, and finally the most important field, it's the active one. So that this means if the process builder is active or not active. Then every single process has a version. So you can work on multiple versions and you can save multiple versions of the same process with minor changes. And as you can see, only one is active. So the cool thing about the process builder is that it can save your changelog, right? So if you probably create a process builder, it's working fine, but then you get another requirement to expand uh, its capabilities, then you go back to the process builder, you create another version of it, but you also save the previous version in case you need to go backward, just starting over again. You can do that with the process builder. So example, I'm gonna create a new one. So let's see if we can create a new process builder. So this is gonna be update incident priority when category equals hardware. And I'm gonna select when the process starts. It's gonna be when a record change, when a platform event message is received, or you want to invoke this by another process. This option means that you're probably gonna be using this process builder inside another process builder. Since this is not the case, I'm gonna check or use a record change. As you can see here, the UI it's totally different. It is very friendly and easy to understand. This is where the process starts, and then you gotta select first the object because the process builder doesn't know which object it's gonna trigger this process. Okay, so for this one as well, gonna take incident, and it's going to alert you by something. It's gonna tell you, hey, you already have a couple of process builders running on the same object. And this is because you can have multiple criterias and multiple actions executing on the same process builder. So you don't need to create a I'm sorry, I was saying you don't need to create a single process builder for every process you want to create or every automation feature you want to put in place on Remedyforce. You can create a just one huge process builder, but you gotta be careful with the criterias and the steps that they're following. Okay, so that's only a tip. You can do it this way, creating multiple process builders, but you're having the risk of having an error that it's called SLQL 101. That's when a lot of processes are running when a transaction is done. You probably have seen that in the past. So part of using process builder is that you're gonna be dealing with optimizing those processes when they are running. So I'm gonna ignore this alert, but if you have multiple of them, like 5 or 6 or 10, be careful with that. Check if you can merge them and have on a single process builder. Okay, so for this one, I'm gonna use when a record is created or edited because I would like to have this severity and priority as priority 1 every time an incident is going to the hardware category, regardless of the incident is new or not. So I'm gonna click save, and what will be the criteria? It's, as I mentioned, it's gonna be the category equals hardware. So choose a name for your decision here and choose when it's going to be to be executed. You have the same options as the workflow: performing a formula, selecting a field, or no criteria. Just go ahead and execute it. So category, oh my god, I'm looking for the hardware. Category. All right, so this is very, very important. If you notice, we have two categories. Okay, one has this weird character at the end, and the other one, for what I can tell, it is a lookup. So I can access category and see what is inside the category object. Okay, so which one do we need to choose? Let's go back to our schema builder. Let's look for both and see what are the differences. Okay, so we have category, the character at the end, it's a formula that returns a text. In category, it's a lookup to the category object. So which one do we need to use? If we look for the second one, we realize that this formula, it's only picking the name from the category. Okay, so either if I go into the first one and look for name in here, let's see if we have name or record name or category. Yeah, this is it. So this is the category name. It's a string as well. So it doesn't matter which one you pick, but you gotta be careful to which value you compare with. So if you would like to use a text for comparison, I recommend you to go for not this one, I'm sorry, the other one. For this one. Because it's already does the job. It goes into the category, grabs the name of the category, And that way you can just input the category name. You gotta be really, really careful here, because if you see, we're not making any criteria to check first if there is something on the category, because some users or some Remedyforce users, categories are required field, must be there. But imagine if it isn't a required field. There is an option that the category isn't there, and we are accessing the category object because process builders can access related records. So if we do that with no category, our process builder is going to crash. So you cannot access a lookup data or a lookup object data when there is no lookup assigned on the record. So if I try to access category name, but there's no category assigned on the incident, then it's going to crash. So be careful with that. If you want to make some, let me save this initially. What you can do to prevent that on any kind of a scenario, it's do not make this decision first. Let's check first if category is assigned. And then record ID. Because record ID will tell us if there's anything assigned. And I can use is null, which is an operator out of the box that will tell you if there's something in here or not. So is null will return true if category is not assigned to this record, and it will return false if there is something on the category. Okay, so when are we going to check if the category is equals hardware? We're gonna make it here. So from these are the list of immediate actions we can create. As you can see, there are a bunch of stuff that the process builder can do. Can create a record, can send an email alert, the flows, stuff that we already saw. For this purpose, I'm gonna check update records. And what is the things we're gonna update? Update urgency and priority. Okay, so then it's gonna ask us, okay, which object related to the incident are you going to update? The actual incident, the record that started your process, or a related record to the incident? For this scenario, you're gonna check the first one, but if you would like to update a related record to the incident, that can be any of them, you can do it with the process builder. But let's choose the record who started the process. And here it's gonna ask us, is there any additional criteria? No criteria, or no, update if they met the conditions. So here, I'm gonna look for a category with that character and gonna type hardware. Okay, and from here what we have done is that initially we're checking, okay, is there anything at the category field? Are we going to crash or not? And then if there's nothing there, it goes to false and the process stops. So it prevents any error. In the case there's something at category, we are already sure, 100% sure that there should be a name to the category. So that way I can compare category equals hardware. Okay, and then can go ahead and priority and urgency. All right, so we are almost done. This is one of the trickiest parts of the process builders. If we notice, priority and urgency are showing up a type of ID. What doesn't mean is this priority and urgency are lookups or external objects away from the incident one. As you can see in here. So the only consequence of doing this from the process builder is that you will need to get the ID of the priority and urgency you would like to assign. We cannot assign a priority and urgency or any other lookup based on text. We need to use the type. We can do some comparisons because this one it's already returning a text, so we're doing text against text, right? But here we're doing ID against text. No, that's not going to work. All right, so where do we get the IDs? What is an ID on the first place? We need to go to the plus sign. If you're an administrator, you should have priority as priorities right here. But also you may have urgencies, plural. There it is. And on both, we're gonna click go so we can see all priorities on the system, all urgencies on the system. And if we see we have high, low, medium. So I'm gonna use high. And for this one, oh my god, I'm sorry, we're talking about impact, not priorities. It's urgency and impact. So let me change that. Impact, and it's the same thing. It's gonna be a lookup. Look for the same thing. There it is, impacts. This can be totally different from you depending on if your setup it's the same as the out of the box one. This is an out of the box Remedyforce, so that's why it has the out of the box names. So okay, from here where's the ID? Where's the record ID? If you notice on your address bar on the browser, you have a bunch of stuff in here. This string is the ID. So that was the impact ID. So I'm going to choose impact. And urgency, it's going to be this one. And urgency. All right, so we have incident when a record is created, edited, category hardware, conditions are met, FK category equals ID, it's not null. I'm not fully sure of this. Let me just verify it. Yep, I'm gonna grab this one. And same thing, it's not null. And I'm grabbing that one because as you notice, I'm not jumping from here. What I was doing on the previous criteria, I was going inside the category object and getting record ID. But if there's no category, how I'm gonna check if there's any record ID? That doesn't make any sense. So every single object has a reference. Every single lookup has a small reference of the ID that you may find it as FK. So FK category has a reference of the ID of the category if there is any category. So I'm not jumping from one object to another. I'm staying on the incident object and I'm checking if this thing is empty or null. There you go, looks better. And okay, let's go ahead and activate our process builder. I'm doing this as fast as I can too. So let's see. Okay, so we need to create an incident with category equals hardware, or we can grab an existing one. So let's go into Remedyforce console. The test incident we created from email, it's number 111. So let's look for it. Okay, so when an incident is created from email, as you can see my category here, it's not required. So this can be empty if you create the category, if you create the incident from email, as it happens just right now. So that's why I was really concerned about the category being empty and we checking inside the category object. So from here, let's grab header. Let's check the urgency and impact. Impact and urgency are none. So let's see what happens. I'm crossing my fingers right now. Okay, so impact and urgency have been updated to priority 1. Priority gets resolved once impact and urgency are populated based on a priority table that it's on the Remedyforce administration. I think it was configure applications priorities. So as you can see right now, we have done a process builder to update an external object like impact and priority by grabbing the record IDs. This is a very simple one, but it's not the purpose of making it simple because you already know how to create a process builder here and the options are pretty vast. So there's a lot of options in here. The criteria, it's going to be the same thing, but the immediate actions or the actions you would like to do when a record meets your criteria or your needs, that's the huge difference. I can do a lot of stuff in here now that I have the criteria. I can add multiple actions or add a second criteria. I decide if I can stop the process here or continue with another process. Finally, if you would like to clone your process builder and keep modifying, because right now since it's active, it's on read only as you can see. So you need to clone the process builder and this is going to ask if you would like to create a version or a new process. If it's going to be the same, choose a version. And now we have another version of the same process builder which is inactive, so we can work on this one safely. And I was saying I can decide if after we change the urgency and impact, we can create another criteria right here and perform another action and so, because I think the limit up here is up to 100 criterias. I'm not fully sure, that's something I need to check, but you can decide if example, if you would like to change this to, instead of stopping, go to the next criteria, you can do it just by clicking this button. And well, from here possibilities are almost unlimited. um, okay, I'm sorry the time has catch ups up. I'm not fully sure we can continue with the flows one. I'm just gonna show you something real quick on the processes just to finish the process builder topic. The other capability, or the most important capability besides updating records that I have found, is that a process builder can launch a flow. I probably will make another webinar about flows because it's a huge topic. And if you notice, it's the same layout, criteria right here, object right here, and actions. So the only difference is that in this case, this action is performing or launching a flow. And we are sending a variable or assigning a variable with the record ID of the incident. Having that, the flow can do anything at the system. Uh, okay. Well, if you have any questions, drop it on the chat right now. We have a couple of minutes just to Q&A. You can rewind as well the video if you need anything else, or if you struggle with something at creating a process builder or workflow, you can submit a support case with us. If there's no questions, we'll move forward to close the webinar right now. Thank you so much for joining. I hope this is helpful to you, and I hope you can start creating your workflows and your process builders from now on. Thank you, and you have an excellent day.